This is Dave with Fry and Bacon Studios and another Gamesalad tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the debug behavior in Gamesalad. Now, one of the most frustrating things is when you have a game and you're trying to troubleshoot an issue or a problem with your logic, and you spend hours trying to figure it out, and usually it's something that you just overlooked or missed, or an actor got corrupted, or a rule got corrupted, and it's not firing properly. And you can spend hours trying to figure that out. With the log debug behavior, we can actually really see what's going on in our code and what's firing when with a few simple setups. So I've got some basic setups here that we're going to work with. And the first one I'll show you is this simple button. And I've just got it basically a couple of game level attributes. I've got a Boolean and an integer. Now, I've got it set up so a touch is pressed, it's going to change that Boolean to true. And when I release, it's going to change it to false. Also, when I press it, I've got an integer that I'm calling fire, and I'm just going to add 1 to the fire count. So if you want to track what's being touched and whether these things are being registered or not. Now, one of the interesting things about this is since the attributes that I want to monitor are game level attributes, I actually don't need to go into the actor on the scene itself. I can actually make my own debugging manager. And we'll just call this log. And I can actually set up the debugging behavior in this log and watch what goes on during the game. So I've made up a variety of rules here that I'll show you that I'm using for the debugging behavior. Now, one of the things about debugging behavior is that it doesn't always fire when a rule fires, because we know in Gamesalad that a rule will fire in a condition and it'll only fire once. So for the one that I've set up self.fire that's changing, what I did was I made a self attribute, and I told this every time game.fire is less than self, so self is going to start out at 0. When I push the button, the game level attribute is going to go to 1. Then after 1 second, I'm going to match these two so they're even. And then when I push it again, it's going to be greater than. So I've got it set up down here in this rule. When game fire is greater than self fire, I want to log a debugging statement. And so what we're going to do here is, let me just delete it out of there, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So we're just going to go ahead and we'll just delete this, and then we're going to come down and we're going to find a log debugging behavior right here. And we're going to go in and we're going to add some conditions and things and attributes that are going to show up in the log debugging statement. So one of the first things I like to do is since I'm inside this log behavior, it's going to show it as the actor being log, or whatever the actor is. So what I want to do is I want to set up a text condition first that's going to tell me what the variable is. So in order to do texting in the expression editor, you need a quotation mark. And so in the quotation mark, we're going to say fired equals quotation mark. Now this brackets it off and makes it text. Then we put 2 dots or 2 periods. And then we're going to come down and we're going to grab the game.fire variable. And the next one we're going to put another 2 dots because I'm going to monitor the time, the game time, so that I know when it was fired so I can see what's happening in relationship to other conditions. So I'm going to hook 2 dots again and another quotation, and I'm going to put time equals closed 2 dots, and then I'm going to come down and I'm going to grab game.time. So now what's going to happen is the way I've set these conditions up is that every time game.fire is greater than self.fire, which it will be because it will only change after 0.1 second, which is going to give this rule a chance to fire every time. This way I can monitor it. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to come down and we're going to look at this Boolean. Now the thing about Booleans is in the debugging statement you can't mix it with text. So what we're going to do here is we're going to label it and then give the time of it, and then we're going to put the Boolean condition under it. So we're going to bring in 2 log debugging statements, and in the first one I want to set up what it is. So I'm going to give it a name. So we're going to say off is the condition. Off equals, I'm going to put off equals and then 2 dots, and then I'm going to grab game.time. So what this is going to tell me is when off is true, I'm going to get game.time. And you could even put in there off. You could even put the condition in there. So we could say, we could do this even more. We can use an underscore, and we could say is underscore true. Whoop. Okay. And then at the time it went true. And then down here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we want to see the physical condition of it as well. So we'll just go ahead and grab that attribute, and that'll log it. And then what I've done is I've got another rule here for when it's false. And I've basically done the same thing. I've said when it's let's just go ahead and redo this. And we'll put off is false. And game.time and the same attribute. So let's just go ahead and we'll save this. And let's go ahead and close this down so we can see the debugging behavior window, because it doesn't stay on top. And we'll just go ahead and preview it. So now we can see we got our first condition, as since off is false from the default, we see at game time startup 0, it was false, and we verified that. So let's go ahead and push it. So we see the conditions that just happened when we pushed it. We added 1, and when we added 1, it was at 14 seconds. At the same time, it became true because I was pushing it at 14.85. You can see they happened simultaneously, and it was true. And then when I released it, it was false at 14.98 seconds, and that's the condition. It was definitely false. So as you can see, you can begin to track your code and see when things are firing using game.time. This way you can tell, well, oh, I've got this condition in a rule or in my behaviors, and this one's firing before that one, and that's not supposed to happen because it's offsetting. And this is a good way to check that stuff. So let's go ahead and clear that out, and let's just go ahead and look at another condition. Let's expand this back out. And I've got basically a couple of actors here, a hero and an enemy, let's say. And I've set up a game level Boolean I'm calling kill. So basically what I want to happen in here is I'm just simply constraining my hero to the mouse, and I'm going to drag him over the enemy. And what I want to happen is when they overlap and collide, I want game.kill to turn to true. And when they don't overlap and collide, I want it to turn back to false. And in the enemy, what I've got here is when game.kill is true, I would have a destroy behavior or whatever behavior I want in here to make the conditions happen. So basically what I've done here is simply added some text just to say I killed the bad guy, robber, and you can just put any text in here you want so that you can identify your actor. And one of the things about, let's just drag a couple things in here just so I can make this point. Let's say I had a bunch of different attributes in here. Okay? And I want to know when a particular attribute in my list is firing. Where you put the log debugging statement is just like any other behavior in Gamesalad. So say you've got a bunch of conditions in here and you're getting to a certain point and it's not firing. What you want to do is make sure you just move the debugging statement in there, or you could drag it to the very bottom to make sure it fires, because this condition won't fire until we've gone through all these other behaviors. So if you're having an issue somewhere down here and it's not firing, then just keep moving it up until maybe the condition that you want is not firing, and keep moving it up till you see this condition, this text or whatever, and you can just put plain text in there until it activates, and oh, my rule's firing this far. Now if you have it at the very top and you don't see this condition come up, this statement come up, then you need to look into your attributes up. That the rule itself is not working. Now if in other places, let's say we've got this attribute game.kill is true, and we're watching it in the debugger, and we know at the game level we're just straight watching the attribute in our manager, and we know, hey, I'm seeing that go to true. More than likely in that condition, either the link is broken with the attribute, or the rule itself is corrupted somehow and you need to delete it and do it again, or the actor itself has become corrupted and you need to delete it and redo it. Now one of the great things about the custom behavior that I'll just show you for a second, when you're say you have a situation where your actor is destroyed, it's ruined, it's corrupted, and you need to redo the actor, but you don't want to have to redo the rules. Well, if they're not links to self attributes, you can just simply drag this out into your custom settings and then go back in, make a new actor, come in here and drag it back out. And this can save you a lot of time. All the internal preset Gamesalad stuff like graphics, motion, physics, size, position, they will all stay intact if you're dragging stuff from one actor to another. The only thing that won't stay intact is any self attributes that you create over here. You'll have to recreate those and then reestablish the links. But that can save you a lot of trouble, a lot of time. A lot of times I find when I'm troubleshooting stuff and things just really aren't working, and I've looked over it a couple times and I know that all my rules are arranged and all my code is arranged properly and all my rules and conditions are firing, and I bring them up and in the log behavior or in a display actor, and I know everything's working right. I'll usually bring in a log debug behavior into the rule or specific rules and look to see if it's firing. If I see that a rule isn't firing and I know that that attribute is changing, that tells me right away, almost 90% of the time, the actor's become corrupted and it needs to be destroyed and deleted, and you need to start again, although you can work the code over. Or a link is wrong. We can get into all kinds of things about troubleshooting. Some of the common things is having when you're using a change attribute behavior and you've got an integer and you're typing in true or false on the other side, or vice versa. Those are common mistakes, kind of things you can get confused about. So anyways, we've got this back to the log debugging statement. So we're going to go ahead and look and see that that does that. And then what I've done up here in the log is I've got a condition right here that's going to tell me, okay, when game.kill is true, I've got my text in there, hero overlapped at this point in time, and I'm also looking at the condition, the game level attribute itself, game.kill, to be double confirmed that that attribute is changing its condition. One of the other things that we could also check if we wanted to is, let's say we want to know the position of the actor during collision. So we're going to just grab this and we'll just throw this in here, and then what we'll say is we'll put in some text and we'll say hero underscore position underscore x close quote 2 dots, and then let's go ahead and grab the self position x of the hero. So let's go ahead and shorten this window up again, and let's go ahead and hit this, and we're going to drag it, and boom, we can see all the conditions that we want. We know what the position, what the time was that it went in there, its position. It was at 350. We know when it overlapped and collide. Okay, it did this. That turned the hero. The code fired in the hero at this time. The Boolean changed at this time, and it was true. So this, having the game.timestamp in there is one of the keys to really helping you see and look for mistakes, because we know that things fire in Gamesalad based on conditions from top to bottom inside an actor. So if you've got something mixed up where you're changing a condition before something else is supposed to happen, and you have them reverse, so you're changing a true to false and you want something else to happen like a second before that happens, this helps you spot those kind of errors, because you can say, oh geez, that's changing at 2.8 and this is changing at 2.9. That's not supposed to happen. And it can help you to go in and say, well, maybe I need that to it's firing too quickly, which happens sometimes even though you're in order. And you can go in and say, well, I need this attribute to happen a little less sooner. Well, a code scan is 0.02 seconds, so you can always go in and say after 0.02 seconds, then go ahead and fire this other condition because I want this to fire first. And that'll help clean things up and tighten things up if you notice that. And this is a good way to go in and you can just set all this stuff up and go in and you don't have to have the a lot of people use the text actors, which is good, but if you set your things upright based on conditions in a manager out here, you don't have to have your screen cluttered with all these different display actors. You can go in and you can have these debugging rules set up inside your actors. And also what's handy is a self-manager, because when you're done with that, you can just delete it. You don't have to go back into all your actors and get rid of them. Now let me show you one other cool thing you can also do that you can keep kind of in your game. Let's go ahead and just make a Boolean and let's call it debug. Oh, let's call it debug. And then let's go ahead and into our manager. And let's just grab all these rules and I'll shift select them. And let's just put an overriding rule that says if attribute game debug is true, then do it. If it's false, it won't do that stuff. And you can go in and the same thing in these actors, we can go ahead and take stuff that's in a debugging statement and we can go ahead and drop a rule in there, and we can say when attribute game.debug is true, then do this. And then once again, you only have to make this rule once. You can just drag it over into your rules section and call it debug. And then you have that condition already set up, and then you can just go ahead and say, oh yeah, I want to put a debug in here with a logging statement, and your conditions with the debug is true. The nice thing about that is that when you want to test your game and you don't want to be debugging it, you just want to run it, just click it to true. When you want to debug it, click it to false, off, before you put it out to the viewer or before you put it out for an ad hoc. And so you can just turn all that stuff on. This way you don't have to keep deleting all maybe these different conditions and different systems that you want in your game, so you can log it. And you could even break it down a little bit more, so you can say, well, hero debug or enemies debug, and you could have a bunch of different conditions in here that you could switch them on and off, so that as you're building and testing your game, you don't have to keep rewriting all your debug stuff. And this just comes from planning and preparation. This makes it easier down the road to debug and log your game, and then when you're done, you just go back and go in and delete all those debug rules and get rid of them. You can just keep a little list of what ones you kind of put them in there, go back in there at the end, delete them. If you're using managers for a lot, you can just get rid of them, come back here and delete, the attributes that are in there. You can just get rid of them and you're done, and it's helped you debug your game. So anyways, I hope this helps you troubleshoot, save time troubleshooting. I know we spend a lot of time doing it, and I hope this was helpful and will get you started in better troubleshooting your logic in Gamesalad. With another Gamesalad tutorial, this is Dave with Fry and Bacon Studios. I'll see you in the next video.